Does the God of heaven have an interest in preserving Boston and the American colonies from being conquered by Catholic France? This was to be a haven for especially Protestantism, a free land for anybody to worship as they feel led. But does God intervene when you see what appears to be secular history and just these secular empires? But I'll tell you something. You know that Persia, when they conquered Babylon in the ancient times, the prophecies of the Bible said, Cyrus, my servant, will be doing this. And so God intervenes in these ways to foresee prophecy and fulfill providence. So America was being preserved at this moment. What happened to the French Navy when this prayer was uttered? Soon after this prayer, the sky grew dark. The winds shrieked. A hurricane was on the Atlantic, and it scattered the French fleet as far south as the Caribbean. Lightning struck, and exploding powder kegs and entire ships, and leaving destruction of the French Navy in its wake. Now, when I talk about a storm that just so happened to come, it also reminds me of another war in American history later on in the chronology, where Britain is trying to reconquer the United States in the War of 1812. So now you have the United States of America. Britain has invaded Washington, D.C. They've set the White House on fire. A number of other buildings in the Capitol are burning. And what happens? Well, all of a sudden, a great storm and a fierce tornado arises upon the British, killing many of their soldiers. It's reminiscent of that scripture verse, the Lord shall fight for you, and you shall hold your peace. The British fled the city. Torrential rains for hours extinguished the fires that they had set, and now they have to make it out of the city through mud, through downed trees that the tornadoes had split apart, and they have ships that are run aground, others have damaged rigging. The British Navy is going, okay, we're regrouped. We're outside of Baltimore. We've got to bombard the American fort with all the cannonballs we can muster because we've been foiled here. But guess what? The storm that had ravaged the British in Washington, D.C. takes a turn for Baltimore. You guessed it. And that very same storm is turning the ground to mud. The cannonballs, 1,800 cannonballs. The Americans have this is no contest. They can't hold off the strongest naval power in the world. But the Lord can. There was another time, by the way, in the war where the British were holding siege against the inhabitants of Boston. Siege is where you're trying to starve them out. You're preventing any supplies from going in or out. And this time, the British General Howe says, we're going to go in and finish them off. 3,000 troops are going to charge Dorchester Heights, and we're going to go get them. We've got the troops needed now and the strategy needed. But just like in the War of 1812, a strange storm arose. A violent storm caused turbulent seas, and they were unable to land their 3,000 troops. General Washington said at the time that this most remarkable interposition of providence is for some wise purpose. I have not a doubt. He had no doubt that, first of all, this was providence, and second of all, that there's some wise purpose that God is doing this for. He didn't understand the prophecies that we are studying this weekend together, but he did see the hand of God and saw that there must be some wise purpose.